From providing safe accommodation to purchasing more lorries to transport workers and swabbing employees to ensure their safety. These are just some of the additional costs construction companies have to bear. Those CNA spoke to say they were already losing money prior to the pandemic, which made the situation worse. Prime Structures Engineering says it's still awaiting the green light to resume its projects. Meanwhile, it has taken loans to tide through this period.
Well, with the safe distancing measures and with the fact that workers cannot go to site unless it's on a dedicated transport, would mean that every trip is a unique trip. For a lorry that can take typically 23 people at the back, now with the safe distancing measures, it's 8 workers. I cannot use the same lorry. I will have to use more and more and more lorries, and it doesn't make sense. Like, you want me to buy my own lorry or you want me to lease my own lorry? But still, like, it's a huge cost.
Ms. Bensley says overall, the company is looking at an additional few $100,000 a month to comply with the new measures. And although it's grateful for government support like wage subsidies and the waiver of foreign worker levies, the company is facing difficulties covering expenses each month, especially with little to no revenue since April. On a whole, the cost of foreign workers is also expected to go up.
How we are staggering the workers to go into work sites, the productivity of each worker will probably drop compared to pre-COVID. That will contribute to increase in cost. But having said that, I think the other problem that we perhaps will face is that with the close of borders, new workers are not coming in, but of course there are some workers that will be going back to their home country and be repatriated. So the initial part of the restart, we probably have less workers than we need in the market. So that will probably drive costs up.
Mr. Liu says another challenge is that ongoing projects are based on outdated prices, which did not consider the cost of current compliance measures. He says construction firms will have to seek the understanding of clients and developers to help cushion the cost.
The layouts of new worker dormitories will look vastly different under new safety guidelines. Previously, there was no limit on the number of beds in a room, which typically has bunk beds for 12 to 16 workers. This will now be kept at 10 single-deck beds, with 1 meter spacing between them. Instead of 1 bathroom to 15 beds, there will now be at least 1 for every 5. And while there's only 1 sick bay bed per 1,000 bed spaces now, this will go up to 15. Under current conditions, a resident has a living space of 4 square meters, including shared facilities. The change will bring this up to 6 square meters, excluding the facilities.
What we're seeing in the new guidelines is more personal space and a reduced density in each room. But how far does this help in pandemic control?
You have to reduce the number of people per room because the cross-infection is increased a lot when you have more people in a room. You should reduce it down to at most 4. Also, if the toilets are within the room, you will have much more decentralized toiletry, right? And that will reduce the cross-infection.
The same public health measures that all of us live with need to be built or baked into the new infrastructure so that it's easy to do the right thing. We do need to almost segment the large dormitories into functionally smaller areas so that instead of having an outbreak that affects 25,000 workers, we can much more quickly identify and effectively lock down a smaller area.
The firm behind the design of Yishun Community and Mount Alvernia hospitals says this segregation could give each floor its own shared space and is effective in pandemic control. Buildings must also have proper cross-ventilation and a staging area or an open flexible space.
That can be used for recreational facilities in times of non-pandemic. But when it's pandemic time, that staging area can be taken over and have your triage control, your tent, your swabbing and all these kind of things have to be factored into the development of dorms. Then I think we'll meet very well the requirements of a pandemic.
Mr. Chan added that this requirement could also be formalized in designs of new hospitals.